Now you see Nicholas is smart and innocent while his aunt is stupid and wicked, right? Now explore this with reference to the lumber room, Pute, right? Now you see Nicholas and aunt side by side, right? Now Nicholas innocence, but aunt is wicked. Now, Nicholas is smart, whereas Aunt is stupid, Pute. Right now, you see innocence. Right now, Nicholas seems to be very innocent under the dominance of his aunt at the beginning of the story. Right? Nicholas is mischief, but he does not act in a way to harm anyone. Nicholas' actions, like putting a frog into the meal ball, are playful, right? Pranks, right? He does not mean to cause real harm to anyone. He can be seen as innocent in the sense that his mischief comes from a child's curiosity and desire for adventure, Pute, right? When the time for the departure of the expedition arrived, there were few decent tears on his eyes. This incident shows the real innocence of Nicholas, right? So those points you have to highlight, Pute. Now, wickedness, she upholds a set of firm rules and expects the children to follow them without questioning her back. Anne's wicked nature is reflected from the punishment she gives to Nicholas for putting a frog into the basin of bread and milk. Her decision to leave him alone at home was a harsh decision for a childish prank, right? Now he seems to thrive on maintaining order and power over the children, Puti, right? Her focus is on obedience. She doesn't try to understand the children and she doesn't show her concern towards their need. She told you twice, but you weren't listening. You often don't listen when we tell important things, right? Aunt is a crafty person. She pretends there is no strawberry jam when Nicholas knows there is. She shows she doesn't value honesty. Now, smartness, right? Now, you see, Nicholas is definitely clever. He outsmarts his aunt by using her own rules against her. He understands his aunt's personality and he makes use of aunt's predictability. Nicholas doesn't act at once, right? He observes everything well. For example, he observes the fact that his cousin's boots are tight and he clearly predicts the discomfort at the beach. So, this observation allows him to enjoy his punishment of staying at home because he knows it won't be fun for the others, right? Nicholas' plan to enter the lumber room highlights his strategic mind. He waits for the perfect opportunity, practices unlocking doors, and predicts his aunt's movements, right? And Nicholas had not much experience, right? Not much experience, right? Of the art of fitting keys into the keyholes and turning locks, right? But for some days, uh, he had practiced mm, with the key of the schoolroom door, right? Nicholas' smartness can be seen through his imagination. He uses his imagination to create an adventurous world through from the ordinary objects in the lumber room. This showcases his ability to think creatively, right? And stupidness of this aunt Pute, right? Now you see Nicholas, a young boy, can easily manipulate the aunt. He turns his punishment uh, into an adventure, right? Aunt tries to give priority to his rules rather than showing her concern towards the needs of the children. Now, this point is this Pute. Now, this aunt tries to give priority, right? Is really concerning rules, right? Very rigid Pute, right? And prioritizes upholding rules over common sense, right? So he's really not hearty. He doesn't concern common sense. I mean, not empathetic Pute, right? He tries to guard the gooseberry garden, which is something Nicholas won't even try to enter, right? Aunt fails to see things from Nicholas' point of view, right? She misunderstands his mischief as malicious and boredom that fuel his actions, right? This inflexibility, unable to make to connect with or understand the children under her care, makes her an unsuccessful caretaker because aunt is not, I mean, successful, Bude, right? Unsuccessful caretaker. Aunt is a unsuccessful caretaker. So we have to remember, short story by Sagi represents the clash between Nicholas, who is represented as a mischievous child, and his over-dominant aunt. Throughout the story, it can be seen Nicholas' innocence is badly tested by the aunt due to her firm rules, but he manipulates the situation from the smartness, right? In the story, Nicholas is highlighted for his mischief and innocence, and the aunt for his stupidity and wickedness, Pute, right? This following analysis illustrates these character traits of Nicholas and the aunt, right? Nicholas' smartness can be seen through his pranks, right? At the beginning of the story, he puts Froggy into the basin of the bread and milk, and aunt punishes him by making him stay alone at home while the other children are taken for the Jagborough sands, and this makes an opportunity for him to enter the lumber room, right? Nicholas not only avoids the wholesome bread and milk but also make use of aunt's fear whether Nicholas would try to enter the gooseberry garden. This incident shows how he makes use of aunt's weakness, and his ability to manipulate the situation. At the same time, Nicholas is aware that aunt's domineering nature won't allow her to think practically. Further, Nicholas' smartness is shown when she practices to open the lumber room door. Nicholas had not much experience of the art of fitting the keys into the keyholes and turning locks, right? But for some days past, he had practiced with the key of the school room door, Pute, right? It can be stated that the Nicholas is smart and practical too. In the lumber room, Nicholas' imagination takes the attention of the reader, Pute, right? He transforms dusty and ordinary objects into a world of adventure and creates a story after observing the tapestry. Here, his imagination and creativity exemplify his smartness of character, right? Nicholas' innocent character can be seen when the aunt fails to understand the fact that his mischief is not malice, right? At the beginning of the story, it can be seen that Nicholas places a frog in his breakfast table. This can be considered only as an innocent act, but not as an harmful act. Further, his other attempts like entering the gooseberry garden, exploring the mysterious lumber room, are the activities done due to the curiosity of the child, right? These behaviors of Claus would illustrate the innocence in Nicholas. When Nicholas is seen with some decent tears in his eyes, right? Being hurt over the rejection of his aunt, and who sends a carriage of children to the Jagborough sands except Nicholas. His innocence is further portrayed by Saki. In contrast, the aunt's actions seem to be wicked. The aunt's hypocrisy seems to amplify her wickedness. He claims to be a morally authoritative figure, but yet readily deceives the children of her house. The promise of strawberry jam to lure Nicholas into rescuing her from the rainwater tank is seen as a blatant lie. This incongruity between the words and actions undermines her authority and portrays her as manipulative and untrustworthy. Perhaps the most damning evidence of the aunt's wickedness is her lack of genuine care for the children. Her focus lies on the maintaining control and adhering to strict rules rather than on the well-being of happiness of the children, right? When Nicholas is trapped in the lumber room, her primary concern seems to be his potential disobedience, not his safety. This coldness demonstrates a fundamental lack of empathy that makes her unfit as a guardian. The aunt's decisions seem to be absolutely at fault, which proves her stupidity. This is highlighted in the aunt's sudden organization of a journey to Jagborough Sands by means of punishing Nicholas. What she expects Nicholas to feel here is deprivation, the feeling as a loser. However, the act of aunt proves to be impractical as the journey turns out to be something gloom and irritated. There had been no sands to play. The aunt had overlooked in the haste of organizing her punitive expedition. The children could not have been said to have enjoyed themselves, right? Aunt's stupidity is also highlighted when he engages in pointless search for Nicholas in the gooseberry garden. At this moment, the aunt demonstrates a lack of maturity as an adult, for she behaves with no conviction. She doesn't believe that there's a possibility of Nicholas being unavailable in the garden. The stupidity of the moment is brought to significance as Nicholas laughs at the hopeless search of the aunt from the lumber room within the house. It was possibly the first time for 20 years that anyone had smiled in that lumber room. In conclusion, it can be stated that though Nicholas behaves in a manner that attracts the aggression of his guardians towards himself, he demonstrates a natural innocence in himself. Saki doesn't seem to criticize Nicholas as someone who does organize crimes, but someone who mocks at the things that work against him. But Aunt appears to be vengeful, and she organizes punishment in rather insensitive ways against the offender, who cuts herself as a funny figure due to her impracticability. Impracticality, right? So of course, so you can try these things in your reading, where you can try to improve your capacity